Okay, hello there, thrill seekers. New stuff is on my blog at hardcorezen.info, and new stuff is on my podcast. Not new since yesterday or Monday, but new since before. So I'm putting new stuff on there about every week. So check those out, please. And when I just wanted to say something unrelated. When I was in Germany, there's this store called Saturn, which is sort of like a Best Buy kind of place, but they've got a lot of CDs and stuff. They had all these CDs on discount, Black Sabbath, and man, I underestimated Black Sabbath. I always loved the first three albums, which are Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and Master of Reality, but I never listened to much of their stuff after. But these were like €10 each, so I bought a bunch of them. And my gosh, Black Sabbath Volume 4, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, what's it, Sabotage, and even Technical Ecstasy. A lot of people malign Technical Ecstasy. They're great albums. So, it's a new thing to discover, this late in the game, that Black Sabbath's mid-70s stuff is so good. So, there you go, new discovery for me. All right, now on to the thing. Somebody replied to me about the video I put up on Monday, and here is the reply in short. I recall an old video several years ago when you talked about someone giving you grief for not wearing your robes. A random thought, it says. For example, a teacher in a sangha I practice with corrected me for laying a piece of paper on the floor because it contained a copy of the Heart Sutra, and she told me that a sutra should never be allowed to touch the ground. I bristled at this because it seemed no different from the Muslim position of not desecrating the Quran by placing it on the floor. I thought to myself, what happens to these papers when it's time for recycling? My question is, at what point does a ritual's purpose begin to defeat its significance? So interesting, somebody should bring up the thing about people putting sutras on the floor, because that one bugs me. It bugs me when people put the sutras on the floor. And I just shut up about it. This is my policy I'll tell you about. When I'm running things, either retreat or at Angel City Zen Center or something, when I see that happen, most of the time I don't say anything, and I just go, and I just cringe inside. And the reason I don't say anything is because, we get a high turnover at Angel City Zen Center, and when I'm doing a retreat, I don't know the people there, so I don't know how long they've been into Buddhism, and I kind of think maybe this is a slightly advanced level stuff, and I don't want to overwhelm people with a bunch of rules, because I've already told them to bow when they come in, and to do this thing when they come to the cushion, and turn around, and do all this stuff, and it's like, people's heads are exploding just from the fact that I'm telling them to sit still for 30 minutes at a time. Like, a lot of people can't even deal with that much, so I don't try to overwhelm them with all that stuff. But you should never put a sutra on the floor. At a Zen do, usually you've got two cushions. You've got a round cushion called a zafu on top, and a square cushion called a zabuton that goes underneath that. You can put your sutras on the zabuton. I don't know of any place where they tell you not to do that, but don't put them on the floor, because that's disrespect for the sutra. And I just thought I'd, as visual aid, bring out a couple things. I mentioned this in a book one day, this little sutra book that I carried around for years in my backpack. I took it out of my backpack recently because I thought it was getting kind of scuffed up, and somebody said, where can I get one of those? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I bought this in Japan at a temple, probably Tokein temple. Just about every temple in Japan sells these. I'm trying to find the Heart Sutra. You got to work out where these open from, because some of them open from the back and some of them open from the front. Okay, there's the Heart Sutra, and you can open it all the way up if you want. And we're getting into another sutra now. If you do it that way, I guess you go the other way. Anyway, that's the Heart Sutra, and helpfully for people who have trouble reading kanji, sorry, I'm going the wrong way with this. It gives you the pronunciation alongside. I don't know if you can see that. The kanji characters are there, and then these little tiny characters on the side are pronunciation. They're hiragana characters that help you with the pronunciation. So if you don't know how to pronounce these kanji, you can read the hiragana. And the hiragana is kanji is a bear to learn, but hiragana is actually easy. I memorized all the hiragana characters in about a week when I really decided to drill on it. In about a week, I'd gotten them down to where I could read them reliably. So those are not hard to learn, although the kanji will take you years to figure out because there's so many of them. And I also brought this thing. This is the Soto School for Daily Services and Practice. This is Soto School Scriptures. I ordered this online from the Soto Shu itself, and they produce a similar thing. It's in the same fold-out page style that sutras are done in, and this has the sutras in Sino-Sanskrit and their English translations, and it's pretty good. It's got everything in there. These are good, and there's a ritual. I'll probably make a mess out of this, where they read the sutras in Japanese temples, and they go like this. They do this thing where, see, I told you I'd mess it up. Anyway, they do it much more artfully than that, and it doesn't collapse on itself. But they do this thing where they read the sutras. So the very long sutras, they all as a group get those together and read them that way by flailing them about. And here, just to show you a kind of what you might see more commonly in an American or European center. This comes from the San Francisco Zen Center. And it's a folder of their sutras that they use. And we've got something similar at the Angel City Zen Center, but I don't have a copy of it here to show you. Anyway, it's a little smaller and has a nice picture on the cover, but that's commonly what you get. And you don't put this stuff on the floor. Why don't you put it on the floor? Well, let me see if I can parse that out. It's because part of the philosophy of Buddhism is that everything is alive, that there is no dead matter anywhere in the universe. Not here inside my body, not this table that I'm sitting at, or this wall behind me, or this sutra book. There is no dead matter anywhere in the universe, not even this fly. Not even after it's dead, it isn't dead. So we don't believe in dead matter. So part of the philosophy, part of putting that philosophy into action, because Nishijima Roshi always said that Buddhism is a philosophy of action. It's not just a philosophy that you learn in your head. You take action to embody that philosophy. And one of the ways you embody the philosophy is by treating the sutra book as if it is a living thing, as if it's a sacred object. Here, I'll show you even how you're supposed to hold it. This is advanced level stuff. You don't just hold it any old way, like, you're supposed to hold it like this, with the pinky and thumb on the inside and your other three fingers on the outside, and hold it like this while you chant, because you're showing it respect, and you're not treating it as a no, there you go. Just did a bad thing. But you're not doing that to it. You're not tossing it about as if it's just a dead old thing. You're treating it with respect. This is the same reason that you bow when you enter the zendo. You're treating the zendo as if the zendo is a living thing, because we believe it is. And you are treating that living thing, that sacred thing, with the respect, and you are bowing to the zendo. Same as when you bow to the statues. You're not saying the statues are alive necessarily. I mean, I just got through saying they're alive. They're alive in a sense, as just all objects are alive. But you're treating them with the same reverence that you would treat the person who they represent. That's what you're supposed to do. And the idea is, hopefully, that people who learn to do this, learn to treat sutras with respect, will learn to treat other objects with respect, like their car, or I don't know, their television set, or the bag of Fritos that they're munching on, or I don't know. Whatever it is, you're supposed to treat with respect, deserving of, that would be deserving of the thing, the ideals that they represent, or even if they don't represent any particular ideals. Oh my gosh, a telemarketer. I'm going to take that. Anyhow, that's that's the deal there. So I'm trying to treat my phone with respect, even though it's a telemarketer calling. So treat everything with respect, and so the fact that the questioner brings up treating the Quran with respect, I think that's a great idea. I think treating the Quran with respect is a great idea. I think treating the Bible, a copy of the Bible, with utmost respect that it deserves, I think that's a great idea. The Torah, whatever holy book it is, I think treating these copies of Black Sabbath CDs with respect is a good idea. You know, everything needs to be treated with respect, and when you stop doing that, you are no longer embodying the Buddhist philosophy. And as I said, Buddhism is a philosophy of action. It's a philosophy you do. This is, to me, what really elevates Buddhism over all other philosophies. Now, I've mentioned how, for example, I think the Advaita Vedanta philosophy is philosophically very close to Buddhism, and I think you can learn a lot if you're a Buddhist by reading the Advaita Vedanta philosophers, because they're kind of coming at the same ideas from a different angle. So I think there's a lot to learn there. But one thing I find missing from that philosophy, and anybody who's an Advaitist who can tell me I'm wrong, I would be happy to know I'm wrong, but I don't find a lot of that in their philosophy. I don't find a lot of the idea that it's a philosophy of action embodied in the Advaita philosophy. It's not stated. I mean, it may be implied in there, but it's not stated so directly as it is in Buddhism, and put into practice so directly as we do in Buddhism. Like I say, I could be wrong because, as I say, I know Advaita mostly from reading books about it. I don't know it from really practicing it. I can't say I've ever practiced Advaita philosophy, so I've just read about it in books. But when I read the books, I don't find a lot about that in their books, and I do find a lot about that in the Buddhist books. So I think that this is a really, really significant thing. And as I've said, I don't like overwhelming newcomers when they show up at Zen events with, just a poop ton of rules that they have to try to master. Like I say, people are freaked out enough sometimes just at the very fact of asking them to sit on a cushion for 30 minutes and be quiet, like that's a real, I've known people who couldn't even do that. They just can't hack it. There was one guy at our when we were at Culver City, which I mentioned. These things all happened at Culver City. I don't know, but when we were in Culver City, I remember one guy came in and he was texting during the Zazen, like texting, and I didn't say anything to him either because I thought he's gonna leave soon, and I was right. After about 10 minutes of sitting there on texting while doing Zazen, he just abruptly walked out of the room, didn't bow. And I was glad to be rid of him, so that was fine. But, you're asking a lot of people. But I think this philosophy ought to ask a lot of people. It ought to make demands on people that they change their habitual behavior, because changing your habitual behavior is how you change your mind. The people want to have this nice, neat division between philosophy and practice, and there is no division between philosophy and practice. The philosophy is the practice, and the practice is the philosophy. And frankly, I'd rather see people do kind of an empty, almost imitation, rote sort of cosplay version of the actions than to memorize the philosophy. I really think it would be more important and more significant to most people's lives if they just did a completely empty, rote version of the rituals than if they were an expert in the philosophical tradition, the mental memorized version of the philosophical tradition. So there you go. There's my answer to putting sutras on the floor. Don't put sutras on the floor. Don't ever put the sutra on the floor. If you don't want to see me cringe, if you're in with me, I'll be cringing like this. So there you go. If you want to send money so I can buy more sutras to not put on the floor, you can send it to this URL, or you can go to this URL you are seeing on your screen, or if you're not seeing it on the screen, it is hardcorezen.info/donate. Oops, probably the wrong way. hardcorezen.info/donate. That is how I make most of my money, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. But if you don't have money to support me, or if you just don't feel like sending it, don't worry about it. I'm offering this content for free. I just thank those who do donate. So thank you a lot for donating. And we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye. Hey Ziggs, how you doing there? How you doing there? You having fun in the sun, laying in the sun? It's nice. It's warm out, huh? All right. I'll see you later, Ziggy. Bye.